Ken Forster, Executive Director at Momenta. Welcome to our Digital Thread podcast, produced by, for, and about digital industry leaders. In this series of conversations, we capture insights from the best and brightest minds in digital industry. They're executives, entrepreneurs, advisors, and other thought leaders. What they have in common is, like our team at Momenta, they are deep industry operators. We hope you find these podcasts informative, and as always, we welcome your comments and suggestions. Good day and welcome to episode 172 of our Momenta Digital Thread podcast series. Today, I'm pleased to have Dr. Tanja Rueckert, Chief Digital Officer of the Bosch Group. Tanja has over 25 years of experience as an executive in the software and building technology industry, having held various executive positions in Germany and the United States. She was appointed as Chief Digital Officer in July 2021 after serving as CEO of Bosch's Building Technologies division. Prior, she headed the IoT and digital supply chain business unit at SAP, crowning a 21-year tenure. She's a member of the supervisory boards of Capgemini, Bosch Rexroth, and Bosch Siemens Household Appliances, and a member of the steering committee for the Digital Trust Forum. She holds a Ph.D. in chemistry and sits on the steering committee for Carnegie Bosch Institute and the University Council for the University of Applied Science in Karlsruhe, Germany, as well as the steering committee for Germany's platform of AI and learning systems. Tanja, welcome to our Digital Thread podcast today.
Thank you, Ken. That was very charming. I'm honored to join you in the Momenta podcast.
Well, thank you very much. It was also a mouthful. You have impressive background, I must say. And so you heard me having to take a lot of breaths during that, but clearly this should be a very interesting conversation. As always, I like to start this to really talk about one's digital thread. So what would you consider to be your digital thread? In other words, the one or more thematic threads that define your digital industry journey?
It's such an interesting start, Ken. So as a kid, I loved to listen to music, actually to the charts you hear on the radio. And then there was a day it was not working anymore, and as it should, and which to me, you can imagine, was a big disaster. So I decided to unscrew it and rewire it. So you can transfer this now, my behavior, to my professional life. As a chief digital officer now of Bosch and as a foresighted leader in its right now turbulent and exciting times, you are way more often confronted with circumstances that are not yet where they should be than with things that are running smoothly. So my way still is take a deep look into it and screw it open and rewire. Because it is all about connecting the right dots. You can also transfer the story into bringing innovations and new technology to life, providing value to those who use it, or to culture. Unscrew silo thinking and rewire it to fruitful collaboration and creating ecosystems. And it is also about being persistent until it works and give you a good sound, like the radio, which, of course, closing the loop, it worked in the end. So my story from the beginning.
I love it. What a great start. My mom often reminds me that all the neighborhood kids and myself could take apart electronics or mechanics at the time. I'm the only one who could actually assemble it and make it work.
That's a compliment, Ken.
It is. So we share some common DNA in that regard. Well, look, you've had a long track record of executive leadership at SAP, from the SVP of Head of Production to EVP and COO of Development to the President of IoT and Digital Supply Chain. This was at a very formative time for SAP as they really expanded the very definition and reach of ERP. If you had to summarize this, wonderful career and time into 3 insights, what would they be?
Let me start with how leadership and the digital transformation has changed our world of work, our interactions. And this was tremendous. When you look at it, the competences in the digital area are much more short-lived and fragmented. Also, perception of personality or of characteristics of persons are different in intercultural and diverse contexts. And especially in software, but in all companies, we work in global teams. And so this is very important. And those context changes led to new and changed demands on the leadership organization and the leadership processes. This was my first insight. I think the second insight is the journey of expanding and always building on a pillar of expertise and experience. I think you mentioned it yourself. SAP started in the area of ERP and then added the topic of database, then cloud, network solutions, and at the end, we discussed it briefly, including machine data with IoT. So always building on something where you have expertise and experience and extending it. And I think the last one is power of open software architectures. I think it's connecting different software worlds, but also, and especially in the manufacturing space, OT and IT. Yeah. People love to talk about predictive maintenance, but to really make it work, it's not only about the machine health, it's also that, is there something in the inventory, optimizing logistics when sourcing. So you have to connect the business processes with the machines, so the IT and the OT world.
So if I think about those lessons learned, digital transformation, expanding on a platform of expertise, and really open software is, maybe I could even say integrative, because you talked about the IT-OT gap. What a great set of platforms to lead you to Bosch at the time. So you made a significant career step coming to Bosch in 2018 as CEO of their building technologies. So what inspired you to make the move?
Yeah, great question. So you can imagine, after focusing several years, and actually it was more than 20 years on the software part of IoT, the missing components were the things. You could say I'm coming from an Internet of no things to the real Internet of things. That was one reason. Another one, it's this great opportunity at Bosch. Yeah, I was inspired by the high-tech company Bosch. Invented for life is a great mission. And the diversity of the business, as a deep R&D knowledge and domain knowledge. And early on, Bosch already has seen the power of connectivity with IoT and also artificial intelligence. And what was also, I would say, inspiring or interesting for me was the structure of a foundation. Yeah, coming from a stock-traded company, working for a company built on a foundation, it's more about allowing longer-term strategies. And it's also a great baseline to make the world a better place. I think last or almost last is when I think back, it's in my role, and I started, as you mentioned, as a CEO of Bosch Building Technologies. It's nice to get a deeper into the topics of solution and service development and really get first hardware technology expertise and combine it with the software knowledge I am bringing. I think shaping solutions around the building of climate neutrality, I think was highly, I would say, interesting for me to join. And the last one is inspiring people who interviewed me and who hired me. And I have people who know me know it. I have a strong focus on the people I work for the leaders. And I want to have someone or like someone I can learn from with great values and with vision.
Again, a great set of reasons to come over. I like it that I always described IT as the Internet of and OT as of things. And you also seconded that too. And the real opportunity is where they meet. You said it earlier, the IT-OT gap, and where you see real world things being activated, if you will, by the Internet of Things. And so, especially in the building space, and especially over the last couple of years with, as you said, climate change and environmental concerns. So you were appointed Chief Digital Officer of Bosch Group in July of 2021. Bosch, of course, is in the middle of one of the biggest transformations in the company's history, from a traditional hardware manufacturer to a leading AIoT, so think AI or artificial intelligence plus IoT or Internet of Things company. What is your remit in driving this transformation?
What you always need is something what inspires everybody at a company. So what inspires us at Bosch is our strategic imperative. It's invented for life. And we want our solution to make people's lives better. Connectivity is playing an increasingly important role here because our lives are taking place more and more in the digital world. But technology invented for life has also meant for a connected life. And we are taking it a step further. We are bringing artificial intelligence, so called AI, we are bringing it to the Internet of Things. And that means we create intelligent, connected, and sustainable solution. And it's, of course, for people, and it's tailored on their needs. And in my role as CDO, I'm responsible for the global teams in the areas of IoT, software development, and digital solutions, and also digital trust across the Bosch groups. And we have 4 business sectors. It's mobility solutions, industrial technology, consumer goods, and energy and building technology. And if you hear the different areas and think about our strategic imperative, you can imagine what power it is to leverage the diverse teams. That different views create innovation. Different views are sometimes maybe not so comfortable, but at the end creates a much better result. So for me and for Bosch, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to shape such a huge transformation, focusing on the value of our solutions we provide to our customers, to the mindset of our associates, and very important, the way we collaborate.
I've heard some of your peers describe it as really moving from a things or products and services to really data management or data first strategies in many ways, and how important that is truly becoming. What would you say is your North Star for this transformation?
It comes back to invented for life. It's, I already have my coordinates set for the North Star. We want to use the boundless opportunities we have with technology and also the powerful minds of all the smart people we know and work with within the company, but also leveraging our ecosystem to really support our planet staying healthy and balanced for the next thousands of years and more to come. And why do I say this? We are working on the future of mobility that does not burden the environment. We shape the future of smart living using exactly and only the amount of energy and water we need, and foster sharing models also using AI solutions. We are decreasing the huge footprint of industries worldwide by driving energy efficiency on a large scale in the factories. Again, with connected solutions, using AI algorithms. So a lot of the technology, but it's always with a higher purpose. And at the end, it's also increasing the chance for people to live safer, healthier, and more convenient. So I hope going forward, when you think of invented for life and when you think for a new asset for your home, your workplace, or while you're on the way on your bike or e-bike and your car, you first think of Bosch, because we really want to help you go to the North Star and have solutions only invented for life. And maybe in closing, sorry, Ken, it's one additional point is Bosch as the coolest company to work for and an easy company to work with, as I believe in the power of ecosystem.
When I thought about invented for life, I was thinking lifetime, which of course for electronics, for anybody with their iPhone, they have to replace once a year because the newest model comes out is already a benefit in and of itself. But I get what you're saying in terms of invented for greater life, for more sustainable life, right? I really like that tagline. And it's interesting because in several of our chief digital officer conversations as of late, we find that chief digital officers are also taking on the ESG or environmental, social, and governance, many times even leadership functions, but also supporting those directly in that. And it's interesting to see technology as a catalyst for outcomes, right? It's what the EU is now calling Industry 5.0, really kind of the outcome economy. And so it's kind of interesting to hear you also talking about the same relevant to your role.
And in addition, Ken, if you think invented for life means also the value is multiplied to the whole society. It's not only a solution you have for one or two persons or for one factory. It's really our goal is to have a broad impact.
And that's the ecosystem aspect. And you guys have done a great job with the AIoT user group and the playbook, which we were honored to be part of both endeavors. So let me ask, what will it mean for Bosch to be a leading AIoT company?
Yeah, so our goal is to deliver products and services that really create enthusiasm, say improve quality of life, and also, we discussed it before, help conserve natural resources. So we always need to think, and every Bosch associate need to think from a customer value and user benefit before you start a new project. So put yourself in the shoes of our customers, of your customers, yeah. So for example, a car company or someone driving, a manufacturing plant manager, a construction worker using the Bosch drills. And then we can use the technologies, and you just mentioned AIoT in the playbook. I think it's fantastic to combine the connectivity, apply intelligence, use maybe even more technologies. They play a crucial role. but it's important to think from the customer and the user benefit, and then use the data and evolve information from it as a key factor in our business success. And this has and will have also consequences for our mindset within the company, the skill of our workforce, the way we work, the way we lead. And this is what we are doing as part of the transformation to a leading company, as you said, of connectable hardware, software, and services.
Truly is a cultural transformation, digitally catalyzed perhaps, but a cultural transformation, both for your company, it sounds like, and clearly for your channels, clients, and customers. You know, the first movers in digital industry like GE created central organizations, usually taking on the subtitle digital, take X digital, right? Some of them, of course, were more successful than others. To whom do you look for inspiration on your own journey, and how are you organizing to approach this opportunity?
So yeah, to your comment, Ken, on central organization. So my belief is if you want to impress someone in a short amount of time, you create a large central digital or innovation organization. This always looks good at the beginning. So if you plan to stay only for a short amount of a time in a company, that's maybe the way to go. But joking aside, if you want to scale digital business, you need to consider digitizing your core business. And you also, of course, it's great to have some alternative and new business models as well, but digitizing your core business. And it needs a lot of non-exciting groundwork. So you need maybe your product content, go digital, such things, which is really a tremendous work, but it needs to be done before you really can make digital offerings or talk about digital twins. So what I mean is you need some central enablement to foster speed and also have reuse of artifacts. But the execution, especially around digitizing core business, needs to be close to the expertise and happen decentral. This is a higher effort in the beginning, but in my mind, far more sustainable. So regarding your second point in the question, looking for inspiration, I believe we can learn from each other as individuals, as companies, but also exchanging with academia or startups. And it is often about specific fields. So let's take one, it's the topic of simplicity in design. There are some players in the US we learn from. When I look at agile setup as a second topic, there we learn from startups. If we think of software paradigms, how we can apply it to the transforming the car into an internet node, I think here software players offer good insights. And on combining deep hardware expertise with software and also maybe several sensors together, there are other companies or individuals turning to us as Bosch to learn from us. So it's something we all can learn from each other. And if we apply it right, we make the ecosystem smarter.
If you don't mind me observing so, I would say that you are approaching this change transformation exercise with a software architecture and perhaps even agile development approach, which is clearly your background and your DNA, and speaks very well to truly the digitization of everything, rethinking what a car is as an example, right? Or any kind of use case.
Well said.
You had mentioned, yeah, well, thank you. Well done, I should say. You'd mentioned earlier about this, the team aspect of it and the cultural aspect of it. How do you assess each of your teams and even think business units' readiness for digital change? And how are you building the leadership and infrastructure to support that transformation?
Yeah, it's a very important but not an easy topic. In my mind, this is more a continuous evolution. If you ever believe you are done and should not thinking of adding further talent from other units in our company or your company or from the outside or evaluate the diversity in all directions, you are stuck. So the technology, the consumer expectations, the new workforce priorities, they continuously change and you need to continuously reevaluate your team. When I started in my role, I very early in the process brought all leaders together to discuss our vision, common goals, but also assessment where we are and what is missing. And when we look at, for having successful services or digital business, you need a 360-degree view. It is not enough to have a cloud infrastructure, AI models, or data storage approach. Important is to, and we also discussed it in the AIoT playbook, is to think about how you go to the market. What does your customer need? What is the willingness to pay? What positive impact on the customer profit and loss you can have, either with efficiency and bottom line or the top line? So the digital change is clearly underway. The team readiness is given. However, I believe we have to further nourish it. We need to open culture, exchange on failures and successes. We really need to live empowerment, not say it only. And we also, for sometimes the structures have evolved and need a reset. And this is normal and a regular procedure so that we keep in good shape and enable really greatest flexibility and faster decisions. So maybe at the end, what are some of my favorite qualities of team members driving transformation? And it's on my mind, I think it's 5. One is forward thinking and risk taking. The second is high passion and dedication. Third one is customer value centricity. Fourth is trustworthy and reliable. And the last one is embracing diversity and collaboration.
What a great list. And I wish I wrote them down fast enough to remind the audience what they were again. But I will listen on the recording definitely. And a really good definition of ideal both team members, but really change agents in that regard. You mentioned earlier academia and startups, and I'm curious, how do you leverage the innovation ecosystem, both inside of Bosch, of course, because I know it's very strong, but really outside your organization? Think outside-in style innovation.
Yeah, I think it's a game changer. Let me start by saying no one, and I really mean it, no one can do it alone. And besides the customer focus we discussed before, I strongly believe that the culture and mindset of having the not invented here topic, so others can do also fantastic innovations, is key to success. Sharing, collaboration, and continuous learning. If we foster a culture, and that's what we are doing at Bosch, of sharing and bring our best people together from different companies to work on projects, they will contribute. Everybody will contribute their expertise, their skills, their knowledge, and can learn from each other. By collaborating in flexible networks across business units or countries, I'm convinced we will create better solutions for our customers, and improve, of course, also the use of resources of the expertise they have. And external ecosystems, like you mentioned, with strategic partners, with startups. And I think we always should have a certain motto. And I think one is partnership is a willingness to share risk and success. And the winners of the digital transformation are the ones that believe together with partners. And it can be partners internally, also sometimes within a company, you have to bring the teams together, and externally can provide a greater added value. And actually, at the end, you will be more successful.
Earlier, you mentioned one of the reasons for coming to Bosch was the diversity of the organization, and you've outlined some of the business units earlier. That is a great playing field, I imagine, for somebody in your position, and to apply applicable principles across each business unit and each team underneath that as well. So you've got a great playground and a great playbook in terms of the AIoT playbook. And so pretty exciting in terms of that.
As you are saying, you have examples from mobility, the automotive industry, which are different, but you always see similarities to the consumer goods. So you call it playground, we call it business, but it's really broad.
It is. And coming back to this idea of the software architect perspective, you have an ability, I think, to look at the common elements in these things versus just the differences in them. And that, I think, usually comes from people who have been truly in enterprise software. You always look for the common building blocks, and then you build the differentiation on them versus starting off with everything's different and it has to be custom, right?
And it repeats itself. There are always patterns you see, or waves that repeats themselves.
You know, I'm glad you said pattern, because that is probably the most common thing I have seen in all the chief digital officers who we've talked with and worked with. They're pattern matchers by definition. They learn across different units, different, let's say, technologies, different disciplines, and they're able to easily lift and shift patterns and apply them back and forth. And clearly you exemplify that as well. So in closing, I always like to ask, how do you find your personal inspiration, Tanja?
Yeah, I get inspirations from open exchange. And I mean with people, leaders, tackling similar challenges as we do at Bosch. And I think it's in companies driving technical and cultural transformation, but also learning from experience from other industries. As we just mentioned, highly valuable patterns, they repeat. It's good to know. And for this podcast like yours with Momenta, unveil great insights of an entire movement we are currently in. And maybe as a last comment, for personal re-energizing and inspiration on people in diversity, it is often my family or close friends I look to.
Well said. So, Tanja, thank you for sharing this time and these wonderful insights with us today.
It was my pleasure. And it was really also driving ideas while we are discussing.
Absolutely. And you mentioned you were an avid listener while you're out running. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of avid listeners listening to yours as well. So this has been Dr. Tanja Rueckert, Chief Digital Officer for the Bosch Group. Thank you for listening. And please join us next week for the next episode of our Digital Thread podcast series. Thank you and have a great day. You've been listening to the Momenta Digital Thread podcast series. We hope you've enjoyed the discussion, and as always, we welcome your comments and suggestions. Please check our website at momenta.one for archived versions of podcasts, as well as resources to help with your digital industry journey. Thank you for listening.